alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
So here is our In-Soul artifact deck for Pioneer. As you can see, 88 bucks a paper, 45 ticks on Magic Online, 31 total rares and mythics if you're going to do it in Explorer on Magic Arena, although like half of those are the mana base, so if you got the lands, not too expensive to put together. And this deck kind of cracks me up. So in some ways, this is an update of an old budget Magic deck. We played In-Soul artifact in Pioneer for budget Magic back in 2020. The thing is, I was looking through my old deck list, and our current list only shares 2 cards in common with the 2021 In-Soul artifact Shrapnel Blast. So really, this is essentially a brand new deck. So even if you remember the 2020 build, it's really nothing like that deck because we've gotten so many big additions to the deck. So let's talk about this deck, what it's trying to do, jump into some games, see it in action. So the primary plan of this deck is to stick In-Soul artifact, a 2-mana enchantment that goes on an artifact and turns it into a 5/5 creature on turn 2. We really want to make an artifact token on turn 1. Turn 2 In-Soul artifact, it essentially comes down with haste because the artifact token was already on the battlefield, and we just start smashing in for 5 and try to close out the game really quickly. So this has been the plan of In-Soul artifact essentially forever, but we get a big new addition in Case of the Filch Falcon. So Case of the Filch Falcon is really perfect for this deck. It's a 1-mana enchantment that makes a clue on turn 1. So it works with In-Soul artifact. We can turn 1 Case, turn 2 In-Soul artifact on the clue token, start beating down. It also, once solved, which we can do pretty quickly because we got a bunch of artifacts in this deck, kind of turns into a backup In-Soul artifact. We can turn a non-creature artifact into a 4/4 flyer, so a little smaller, but it does get evasion. So that's our primary plan. Use these cards to turn artifact tokens into real threats. So as far as artifact tokens, we have 2 1-drops that just put a trinket on the battlefield. Spyglass Iron makes a map, Foldared Epicure makes a blood. Either one of those is going to work with In-Soul artifact on turn 2, also going to help turn on Case of the Filch Falcon. As far as the rest of our threats, Smuggler's Copter, insane in this deck. Not only is it just a really good card, it works with all of our 1-drops, we can even just stick an In-Soul artifact on it and turn it into a regular 5/5 flyer, but it also synergizes really well with Inti because Smuggler's Copter loots, and Inti likes us discarding cards. If we get down Inti with Smuggler's Copter, we can attack with Smuggler's Copter, we can loot, discard a card, which will trigger Inti to Impulse Draw as a card, and then we can use Inti's ability too if we want to give something trample and Impulse Draw another card by discarding a card. So they work really well together. We also have Gleaming Gear Drake, which just puts a couple artifacts on the battlefield, really good with Case, gives us another flyer, grows as we sack our stuff, and then Cryptic Cope is at its best against control, a little bit slow against other aggro decks, but against control, the repeatability of Cryptic Cope, being this weird like mini Batterer Skull that we can keep bouncing back to our hand to manifest again, really, really strong. As far as our interaction, we have Torch the Tower, Legion Extruder for the early game, Shrapnel Blast, one of my all-time favorite cards, just sack an artifact, 2-mana instant speed, 5 damage to anything. This is one of our best ways to close out the game, and the math lines up really well with In-Soul artifact, because In-Soul artifact is hitting for chunks of 5, Shrapnel Blast is hitting for chunks of 5, so we have some games where we just like In-Soul artifact, hit you a couple times down to 10, and then Shrapnel Blast you a couple times down to 0, win the game, Spell Pierce to protect our stuff, mana base, really good mana base for a budget deck. We do have a lot of pain lands because of Shivan Reef and Spire of Industry, but essentially all of our lands come into play untapped. Our mana is going to be really consistent. Darksteel Citadel, another good target for In-Soul artifact since it's indestructible, a 5/5 indestructible on turn 2. Gonna be tough for a lot of decks to beat. As far as the sideboard, a bunch of removal for creature decks, Magebane Lizard for combo decks and Prowess style decks, Unlicensers for graveyards, Mystical Dispute for control, and that is $88 In-Soul artifact for Pioneer, and that's our budget Magic for today. So let's jump into some games and see just how good this new and improved 2024 version of In-Soul artifact can be. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some Magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/MTGGoldfish. We've got new tokens and playmats, and you can even get the tokens signed if you want. Check them all out over at MTGGoldfishmerch.com. Alright, budget Magic time. We are playing some Pioneer this week, In-Souling our artifacts, and this hand looks pretty great. I mean, turn 2 In-Soul, potentially, and Shrapnel Blast. Shrapnel Blast is such an underrated card. I don't know why Shrapnel... 5 damage for 2 mana instant speed is so good. Pound it. Land. And passes. Well, the black mana makes me scared. Let's just Let's just get in for one. Let's get in for one. Fatal Push seems likely. We can get in for one and just double Vivier and Epic here this turn. We'd like to get down the Soul Artifact on a turn when our opponent does not have Fatal Push up. Maybe that's too conservative, but... Alright, there's a Waste Not. Okay, now we are in the clear. Well, we're definitely ensouling a Blood Token. And we want to hold the Shrapnel Blast. With Shrapnel Blast, we just have lethal next turn. I'm worried about a Mind Rot effect. I think we just hold both, as weird as that seems. If they had a Thoughtseize, they would have cast it, right? But they could have go blank. And if they go blank, we still have lethal next turn. There's a Fatal Push that we expected. Now we're one short of lethal? I mean, the most important thing is making sure... Come on. Non-land, 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 non-land. Island. All right, still one short of lethal. The most important thing is making sure we don't discard the Shrapnel Blast. That's the card that's going to win us this game. Get in, hit you. Opponent does not know how close they are to being dead. Down to 6. All right, opponent. Come on. Castle Lockwayne and Karavik. Sure. So what could they have that beats us? March of Wretched Sorrow? I don't think this deck plays it, but it could. Gleaming Geardrake. So how do we guarantee we win this turn? Let's just attack. If our opponent tries to do something with Karavik, we can kill him in response. Opponent gonna block. And down to 4. And let's play the Geardrake. I mean, there's no reason to just fire off the Shrapnel Blast. If there's any % chance that they can march and gain a bunch of life, Liliana, we're better off just waiting, right? There's no rush. If there's some chance that we lose, or our opponent can, like, stay alive in response. Opponent's gonna tick up. That's fine. We can just discard a creature. Probably into here. Opponent gets a zombie, but little late for that to matter. I mean, now we're actually presenting lethal on board with flyers, right? Wow, opponent's going aggro, sure. I mean, I guess they can't block most of our stuff anyway, so it makes sense. Down to 17. Well, let's just crack this clue. Grow the Geardrake, draw a card. Another Geardrake. And Aspire. If we stack the blood, we do trigger Waste Not. Let's just Spyglass Siren, make a map. So I think the plan is attack for lethal here. If our opponent has removal, they have to cast it before they die to our attack. So grow the Drake. Doesn't matter what we hit. And opponent scoops it up. Well, I guess we would have been safe to Shrapnel Blast, but I think that is the correct way to play it. Like, we're 99% to win. Why take the 1% chance of just firing off the Shrapnel Blast? The bad news is, I don't know if we have anything. The good news is we just absolutely crush Waste Not, which is one of the best decks in Pioneer, with $88 in Soul Artifact. The bad news is we don't really have a ton for this matchup. We don't have Enchantment Destruction. I guess the counters are maybe our best way to stop a Waste Not. Let's try it something like that. Well, game 1 went pretty good. Oh, this deck's sweet. And Soul Artifact's been a cool archetype ever since it was in Standard, really. It's got some big new additions from the last few sets. Like, Inti is so good with Smuggler's Copter. Legion Extruder is really good. Case, really good. So we have a bunch of new additions. Opponent going to lead on the Thoughtseize. Well, alright. I assume they take in Soul Artifact. And Soul on Darksteel Citadel is going to be sweet. But we'll have to settle for, I guess, playing the control game. Opponent Thoughtseizes. Yeah, I guess we might as well counter so they don't know about the Mystical Dispute. I'm really worried about Waste Not. Let's just Soak and Zan. I think we're going to play it slow. Let's pass. The way we lose now, easiest, is just Waste Not coming down. Well, Spireplift's good. Let's play Spyglass Siren. Our opponent, because they played 2 Field of Ruins, it makes me think they most likely do not have another land in hand. Let's crack the map. Hit another land. Well, we still have the Spell Pierce. If they go land Waste Not, that is bad. All right, opponent passes. That's good. How greedy are we? We could just, like, sit on both counters. That's so conservative, but I don't see how they beat us without a Waste Not. Like, if we can just make sure they don't resolve Waste Not, how do we lose? Opponent passes again. Well, play the land, go to combat, get in, hit ya. And now I think we can play Smuggler's Copter. Still have a Mystic Dispute, so even if they go land Waste Not, they could have Waste Not in hand. They know about the Spell Pierce, right? So if they have Waste Not in hand, they're not just going to run it out into the Spell Pierce. So it's very possible they have it, and they're just trying to wait to draw one more land. I don't know why they're thinning their deck. I guess they do need double black. It's awkward to have 2 Field of Ruins, especially since they don't do anything against us. Opponent. Land. Waste Not. All right. Well, did not know about the Mystic Dispute. Might have known about the Spell Pierce, but not the Mystic I think we actually played that right. Spell Pierce the Thoughtseize. Oh, come on now. Well, did not play around 2 Waste Nots. That's awkward. Oh, boy. Our deck likes drawing and discarding, too. With Inti and Smuggler's Copter, we really want to be drawing and discarding, but I think we just say no. Yeah, did not play around the second one. Well, down to 12. We only need 3 more turns of attacking. We still have another Mystic Dispute to stop a hostile investigator. That card ended up being way better than I expected. Hostile Investigator is actually pretty good. Well, I guess so we can Cryptic Coat, use it to crew Copter, get in for 6, and now we have a 2-turn clock? All right. I mean, we still got the Spell Pierce, which our opponent knows about, which is defense, although not an insane amount of defense at this point. Well, hit you to 6. Opponent. Yeah. Play the land, pass the turn. What do you got, opponent? What do you got? Opponent needs something good, or this game's pretty much just over, and opponent scoops it up, and that went really well. Our conservative, sandwich-heavy approach pays off for the hungry investor. Sweet. All right. Budget Magic time. We are, wow, is our opponent Mythic 35? My God. All right. Hard mode. Opponent, top 35 rank on Arena. That, you do not run into top 50 very often. You run into top like 1800, 1200 on occasion, but all right. What are you up to, opponent? Main deck Duress, eh? Okay. This hand is pretty bad now. I mean, we're already on the mall. And now we have, well, I guess we have an Epica. But, yeah, this hand doesn't do much if our opponent's playing Rakdos. Main deck Duress. So is this Rakdos Vampires? Probably Vampires. Reckoner Bankbuster. I mean, really, Rakdos Vampires. Yeah, there are Vampires in it. Although, it's really like Rakdos mid-range with a combo kill. Land. Get in. Hit ya. Go. So what do we need to get back in this game? Oh, Fable the Mirror Breaker. All right. That's less than ideal. I mean, we can torch the tower the Goblin, which I think we have to do. And then we can Cryptic Coat and go to town. I mean, opponent's down to 16. We hit him to 15. Get down the Cryptic Coat, which is for 3 and warded. Yeah, opponent down to 15. Gonna need to top deck some Shrapnel Blast, I think. How's about some Shrapnel Blast? But wow. Our opponent discarded Bankbuster and oh, okay. Yeah, that's not good news. I don't know if we can beat this Shield. All right, we really need the Shrapnel Blast. The problem is, our hope of winning is our opponent's like down to 15 and we have a 3-2 unblockable and we can like chip in. Shielder's going to gain so much life though that is not going to work anymore unless we can kill the Shieldred. Shrapnel Blast. How about a Shrapnel Blast? Torch the tower. Well, let's play the island. Grab Big J and get in for 3, I guess. Kind of funny that in this scenario, the unblockability on Cryptic Coat's almost a downside because if it wasn't unblockable, there's some chance our opponent blocks with Shielder and then we can torch the tower it. As it is, this torch the tower, I guess it can take down Reflections of Kiki Jiki, but Opponent, gonna draw a card, trigger Shieldred, gain more life. Yeah, this just undoes so much of our work. Opponent plays a land, and Sorin. Oh god. Do they also have Vein Ripper? Oh boy. Oh dear. Oh dear. Alright, yeah, and dead. Well, this feels like a tough matchup, although I will say, we had a mulligan into a sketchy hand into getting duressed on turn 1, which made our hand even more sketchy. So maybe it's just how that game went. Definitely want the Curlin War. Our deck, that's our best removal spell, I guess, for Shieldred and Vein Ripper, as odd as that is. We don't really have removal that just snipes it. But a Curlin War can deal with it. What do we cut, though, is the question. Maybe a Spell Pierce. Let's try it like that. All right, well, go a Curlin War. Game 1 was a massacre, though. That one was not even especially close. All right. On to game number 2, we get to be on the play. Let's see how this hand looks. All right. We would prefer not to get duressed. This hand's a little land heavy. Smuggler's Copter would be helpful if we can resolve it. If we get Thought Seized again. Oh boy. All right. Well. Oh, Spell Pierce. So it's starting to look a little bit like the last hand, which is scary. Okay, we need an Ensoul Artifact would be pretty nice. If we can make an indestructible Darksteel Citadel, Bono Land, and Blood Tithe Harvesta. I mean, we can torch that. I guess we might as well. Well, get rid of the Blood Tithe Harvesta. Opponent gets the blood. Come on, deck. Something big. Another land. Well, hit you for 1. And I feel... Yeah, let's pass. This could be a Fable or Sorin turn. Another Blood Tithe Harvester. The Spell Pierce is... This is probably when it's going to be at its best. Next turn, if we don't draw anything, we can get Big J and still leave up Spell Pierce, which is nice. All right, opponent plays a land, passes. Well, there's another Smuggler's Copter. Let's play... We probably want the Darksteel Citadel. In case we do draw on Soul Artifact, that is the best thing to put it on. And pass the turn. Well, we got the Sorin covered. Oh god, Kalitas. Well, that's an issue. Boy, opponent has a lot of life gain, don't they? Alright, and kills Epicure and makes a zombie. Inti. Well, I mean, playing Inti, crew it up. We do get to draw 2 here. What can we draw that's helpful? Get in. So, Inti triggers. Actually, do we... Yeah, let's hold on to this land and just loot. Oh my god, even more lands! We don't have that much mana to play things. Well, there's the Ensoul. The Ensoul is good, but we tapped our Darksteel Citadel. I think we just got to put on the Blood token. We need an untap blocker this turn. Hopefully they don't have removal. Come on, hold. We still have the Spell Pierce, but it doesn't stop a Fatal Push. No. Okay. Oh, maybe we got too greedy. Maybe we should have waited for the Citadel. Ouch. Opponent goes back to 17. And we just have a Spell Pierce in hand. Torch the tower. Well, let's do some looting and some scooting. Smuggler's Copter Inti is really good. Even if we don't activate Inti, we get to loot, and then we get a Inti trigger. I don't think we're going to discard this turn. Another Inti. We will discard another Inti. Into Shrapnel Blast. That might actually matter. Let's... we kind of want an artifact that's not a land. Let's discard the Spell Pierce. Counter on... We don't really want to sack the Smuggler's Copter. We can sack the Darksteel Citadel, but this might actually let us beat Kalitas, though. Maybe. Gear Drake. That's not bad. Okay, so let's think about this. We can play the Gear Drake. So Kalitas... Huh. Wait, are we gonna get back in this? We were so far behind. It was like a turn ago that we just had a Spell Pierce in hand and we're staring down this Kalitas and a zombie. So we need to kill the Kalitas. Actually, they can sack the zombie in response. Okay, what we need to do, we need to kill the zombie with the torch to the tower, as awkward as that is. And then our opponent will likely go to sack it in response. And then before it gets the counters, we can Shrapnel Blast, Kalitas. Wow, those were some... those were some good draws. Opponent gonna sack the zombie, and now Shrapnel Blast. And I think we actually still sack the Darksteel Citadel. We have enough lands. I think I'd rather have a clue. Well, Kalitas down. And now we actually have the better board? Are we gonna win this? It kind of depends on what our opponent has here. Land and Vein Ripper. Oh god. Come on, deck. Come on, deck. Come on, deck. Oh. The sideboard. The sideboard plan is paying off. So, a Crowan War. Oh, I should have crewed Copter first. Oops. I mean, this is still fine. Go after the Vein Ripper. Sag the Inti. Steal the Vein Ripper. We do get drained. Yeah, we could have... I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because we can crew with the Vein Ripper. Yeah, I guess it doesn't actually matter either way. Well, get and hit ya. Sacking the Inti's a little greedy because it's a nice engine with Smuggler's Copter, but another one. Okay. That's a lot of Vein Rippers. Epicure might actually not be the worst draw here. So if we Epicure, opponent goes to 8, and then we crew Copter. Basically, this will force our opponent to chump the Vein Ripper, which means we get rid of both. Are we going to somehow beat Kalitas into 2 Vein Rippers? I did not know that was possible. Maybe Vein Ripper's not that good after all. Opponent down to 2. We're at 7. All these Vein Ripper triggers, I should just cancel out in the end, right? I believe. Oh, unfortunately, since it's our turn, opponent survives. If it was their turn, they would have taken the 2 and died before they gained back the life. Well, let's crack this clue. Draw a card. Sokinzan. Well, all right. Opponent, are you dead? Did we beat Kalitas into double Vein Ripper? With our $88 in Soul Artifact deck? Wow. Okay, maybe this deck's better than I thought. Like, this is... I still can't believe... Remember, like, it was not that long ago, opponent, Desperation Blood Sacking. Duress not looking so hot anymore, is it now, opponent? I can't believe that, like, a few turns ago, we had a single Spell Pierce in hand, facing Kalitas and zombies, and it looked like the game was over. And it wasn't like our opponent even, an opponent does scoop it up, and it's not like our opponent even ran horribly. They had double Vein Ripper, and we still, in the end, managed to overcome. We did run hot, like drawing the Shrapnel Blast to deal with the Kalitas into the Crowan War to deal with the first Vein Ripper was undoubtedly really good running, but still, for a budget deck, that was pretty impressive. Actually, for any deck, that's pretty impressive. I never beat Vein Rippers. All right, on to game number 3. Can we do it on the draw? Why don't you do it on the draw? Opponent. What do you say, Q-Taro? A little land heavy, but I mean, I don't think we can ship this hand. 1 drop into Inti, a couple of Citadels in case we draw in Soul Artifact. Wow, opponent's going to 5. I think our opponent is looking for the combo. I think they're playing like a combo deck. With that aggressive mulliganing, my expectation is we need to be alert for a fast Sorin Vein Ripper. Well, get down, Spyglass Shiren, opponent. Haha. Oh, the Duress God is really good in game 1. Little less good now. Shrapnel Blast. I mean, Shrapnel Blast, it is worth noting, can kill a Vein Ripper. We'd rather be throwing it face, but it does get the job. Shrapnel Blast is so good. I don't know why more decks don't build around Shrapnel Blast. Opponent, Sorin. And, alright, here comes the combo. Vein Ripper. Well, the good news is, we get to Shrapnel Blast the Vein Ripper, sack the map. We get drained a little bit. This also lets us kill the Sorin, which is nice. Wow. Okay, that went pretty well. And because our opponent mulliganed so heavily for their combo, I guess we should have played the land first so we could Epicure. They only have one card in hand. This might be going well. This might be going well. We dealt with the big push. Preacher of the Schism. That is annoying. We don't want our opponent to start drawing. Well, that is more Shrapnel Blasting. Let's... So we can Looter Scooter. Actually, is it better to Epicure? Yeah, it's probably better to Epicure. We can Epicure and then make the blood and sack the blood. I do think we have to kill the Preacher here. Preacher does snowball pretty well. So Preacher, Shrapnel Blast. It does hurt to not be throwing Shrapnel Blast at our opponent's face, but opponent's down to 0 cards in hand. Opponent down to 19. Are we going to beat the best deck in Pioneer? Through their turn 3 Vein Ripper. Opponent blood. I felt like this was such a bad matchup in game 1 too. I thought there was no shot. But apparently it's not that bad. Well, now we can get down the... Are we even discarding anything this turn to Inti? I guess we could. We can discard the tap land. Yeah, let's do that first. Go to combat, attack with both. Discard the land. Counter on the Epicure, so it gets through the Blood Tithe Harvester. Hit more lands, sure. So what are we most afraid of? I guess Sheoldred would still be annoying. That could still potentially stabilize our opponent. Well, get down the Smuggler's Copter, play the land, and see what our opponent finds. Blood Tithe Harvester on the Inti. Yup. Fair enough. And Desperation Blood. Desperation Blood. It feels so good when your opponent has to just main phase crack a blood. Ooh. 2 of 2 Gear Drakes. Well, Gear Drake number 2. And crew up the Smuggler's Copter and crack a clue so we have something to loot away and grow the Gear Drakes. I mean, our opponent needs to be like playing Wrath. So, well, let's play the land, crack the clue, grow the Gear Drakes. Gear Drake can pop off when you get to the mid-game. More lands. Well, Smuggler's Copter can get rid of that. Get in. Do a little looting. Even more lands. Well, that's fine. Get rid of the Spire Bluff. Hit ya. Down to 4 and opponent. Now we don't even care about Sheoldred. Do you have... No. The answer to whatever I was about to say is no. And we just took down the best deck at Pioneer through all the Vein Rippers with a Soul Artifact. Maybe this deck's sweet. Maybe this deck's sweet. All right. Budget Magic time. We are ensouling our artifacts in Pioneer this week. Karuga, eh? What plays Karuga? Fires? I haven't seen Fires in forever. Huh. Well, we will play first. And well, that sounds pretty good. Case to make the token and then Soul Artifact. Get our beat down on. I mean, considering our opponent's playing Karuga, turn 2 and Soul on the play might just be game. It's not like they can Fatal Push, right? Opponent with the Triome. Well, we could leave up Spell Pierce, but they're Karuga deck. I think we got to play No Fear this one. I know in our first match, playing conservatively and leaving up counters paid off. I feel like in this match, we just gotta go aggro. Yeah, let's play the Mountain, ensoul the token, and here comes Beatdown. Sit you for 5. 3 more turns. We need 3 more turns. Come on, no Leyline Binding. Opponent tap land. Well, now we can actually counter the Leyline Binding if we need to. 5, yeah. Down to 10. And might as well Legion Extrude, I guess. Although, this doesn't really shift the clock in a meaningful way. It does get an... Wow, opponent scoops it up. It's an artifact on the battlefield for solving our case. Well, that was easy. I think we're going to bring in the Mystic Disputes. I'm still not really exactly sure what our opponent's doing. It's something with a lot of colors in a Karuga. Beyond that, I really, that was so quick. The downside of beating down with the soul artifact so quickly is we don't get to find out what our opponent's playing. All right, opponent. What do you got? Yeah, we're on the draw this game, of course. Awkward that we can't play the Spyglass Siren on one. Yeah, I think we keep it, though. We'll find our blue mana, right? We'll find our blue mana right away. That is... I mean, land number 4 is awkward, but blue mana is good. That's one downside to Spire Industry in the mana base. It really helpful with the budget, because it's so cheap, and it is an untapped dual land, really. More Spire Bluff Canals. The only downside is it doesn't make colored mana on turn 1, which is sometimes a bummer. Well, I mean... hit you with the Spyglass Siren. Down to 19. So now our opponent's playing Jund? No Triomes? Are they some sort of 5-color fire stack? Found it. Untap land, Beanstalk, Giant getting their ramp on. We do not currently have that fast of a clock. Although 5 damage from Shrapnel Blast might matter. Wow, even more Spire Bluffs. All those Spire Bluffs in a row on the top of the deck. Yeah, I mean, I guess we grab Jengatha and pass the turn. Opponent, Mountain. Oh. Okay, that makes sense. Now I think we're dead. Quintorius combo. Okay, yep. That actually makes perfect sense. Oh, I don't know why I was thinking fires. Well, once if they hit a spark, yeah, okay, there's a spark double. Now I think we can safely concede. I think there's a world where it could whiff if you hit all the clever impersonators. Yeah, I don't even know if that's possible. Well, now we know what's up. We got to stop Quintorius. The funny thing about that is, if I was smart enough to realize they were playing Quintorius combo, the Shrapnel Blast would have been able to fizzle it. So that's just on me not knowing the matchup, I guess. I think that's the bottom line. I think we accidentally sideboarded relatively well. Magebane Lizard doesn't actually work because they're cascading into creatures. Only triggers on non-creatures. Well, out of game 3, we are on the play, and now we know we got to make sure that Quintorius doesn't combo. Well, we'll play first. That's a lot of lands. I think that's too many lands. Oh, the max Spire of Industry punishment here. And this hand's kind of sketch. Yeah, we're going to go to 5. All right. Well, I mean, we do have a Shrapnel Blast. Shrapnel Blast can stop the Quintorius. We got a Geared Rake to have a little bit of aggro. I think we copped her first. And then next turn we can Geared Rake Crew, get in for 3, opponent land, and another Shrapnel Blast. I mean, there's also a world where we can just get our opponent low enough on life that we just double Shrapnel Blast for lethal here. Well, get in. Not going to bother to loot. We want both the Shrapnel Blasts. Opponent land. And, alright, there's the Beanstalk. So now we got to make sure we leave up a Quintorius Con answer, because it could be coming next turn, and it is lethal. Opponent grabs a Schwamp. How close are we to winning? I think we play the land, so we have 2 Shrapnel Blasts up. Do we even need 2 Shrapnel Blasts? Let's Smuggler's Copter. Get in, hit ya. Still not gonna loot. Down to 14. I mean, if they don't have the combo, next turn, we're close to going for lethal. The problem is we can't attack with the... Wow, they shocked themselves. Okay. Now we actually are going for lethal? In Soul Artifact. I mean, technically all we gotta do is Looter, Scooter, attack, double Shrapnel Blast. Will it actually work? Well, Smuggler's Copter. Go to combat. Come on, opponent. Oh, they got something. Gonna do some bedazzling. Well, I think we're gonna spend one of our Shrapnel Blasts here. We don't have that many artifacts. So Shrapnel Blast your face. Down to 7. This does grow the Geared Rake, so in theory, we once again have lethal next turn. do they have the combo this turn? I mean, Shrapnel Blast can still fizzle it. Ooh, okay. Leyline Binding. Going after the Gear Drake. I mean, technically, so technically we don't have lethal if we have to Shrapnel Blast a Quintorius here. Opponent with the tap land. not gonna play into the blast. I mean, they didn't have it last turn, right? Or didn't go for it last turn. Maybe they haven't and didn't go for it. That is possible. We did have blue mana up, so maybe they're trying to play around the counter. Well, there is Quintorius. So now we wait till they activate. Oh. Interesting. Huh. Why? Why? I mean, we're still gonna kill it. Huh. That is the weirdest choice. So they get a 3-2. The thing is... Oh, there's a Smuggler's Copter. The thing is, the 3-2 doesn't actually do anything. Like, taking up Quintorius doesn't get it out of range of Shrapnel Blast. Please not another one. If they have another one, we're dead. Opponent tap land. Oh, alright. Just getting the Karuga. Come on, deck. We need some damage. We're so close. Island. Well, I mean, Ensoul Artifact on the Looter Scooter. Go to combat. Get in for 5. Loot into... Shrapnel Blast is so good. And I think that means we got him. Shrapnel Blast your face. No blue mana up. And... GG. GG. Wow. Okay, that was... that was a good Smuggler's Copter. My God. And an even better Shrapnel Blast. We just blasted our way to that win. We drew 3 of them. Well, sweet. All right. Budget magic time. We are doing some more $88 Ensoul Artifacting. And, yeah. I mean, not our best hand. We don't have an Ensoul Artifact. No Shrapnel Blast. But seems fine. We got a bunch of map. Oh, boy. All right, opponent. Aggro on the play. Well, Spyglass Iron. Make a map. Pass the turn. Opponent. Stomping Grounds untapped. And Monastery Swift Spear with a counter from the Silly Saga. Who would have thought how strong that card would end up? The Red Sagas from Kamigawa ended up being really good. The rest of them, they all suck, right? Are there any other... I'm trying to think. Are there any other good ones? We're already at 13 here on turn 2. I feel like there's not. What am I... Oh, Restoration of Ganjos was decent in Standard. That one's decent. Although it's kind of faded away, right? It's funny to see. Let's run out the 1-drops. It's funny to see in Standard how the size of the format really does limit the amount of cards it can see you play. Like, Restoration of a Ganjo was a card that, with 2-year Standard, or like 18-month Standard, was kind of a staple. But then once we got up to 2.5, 3-year Standard, it just couldn't quite keep up. Well, I mean, we're in a really bad position. We're going to try double blocking. I don't expect this to work against our opponents. Wow, okay, it did work. I mean, I don't even know if that's enough, because we're really good at drawing lands this game, but found it. Dab land. Even more lands. Well, let's do a little blooding. Now we are the desperate person main phasing our blood tokens. Come on, deck. All right, Spire of Industry. Well, sometimes you just draw a lot of lands. I mean, I guess we play the Inti. The problem is, even with this Inti, we can't actually block the Swift Spear. It's got the counter from the Saga. Well, do we discard just to get the counter? I think we do. We need more power to eventually block the Swift Spear. Come on. Really? Well, there's the Shrapnel Blast. The one time we draw non-land, it's off Inti, and it's going to exile Questing Druid to draw some cards. Audacity and a land. Yeah, this one might be over quick. Opponent. Land. And Audacity. All right. I mean, we're not blocking here. If we die to a pump spell, we die to a pump spell, but there's no point in chumping a trampling Monastery Swiftspear. Opponent. Alright, let's it go down to 4. I mean, you know we need to draw. It's that Shrapnel Blast that we just lost because of Inti. Questing Druid. Shrapnel Blast number 2 in Soul Artifact. I mean, Soul Artifact, does that matter? We can put it on the Darksteel Citadel. The problem is the Swiftspear still has Trample, but a 5/5 indestructible blocker, if we could have gotten that earlier, it would have actually mattered. Let's get in with this Siren. Discard the Pathway. We still could really use a Shrapnel Blast to just, like, kill the Swiftspear dead. If that happens, Cryptic Coat. Well, that's going to go to waste. I think our best hope here, and it's not a great hope, but it's the best we got, is in Soul Artifact on the Darksteel Citadel. And I guess we crack a map because we're not doing anything else. And, alright, there's a land. I mean, for the amount of lands we've drawn, because of Inti, we have been able to discard them. We haven't got any value out of discarding them. I mean, I guess we got a couple counters, but... Alright, opponent, how about all lands in hand? One time? Opponent. Oh, gonna ruin our picnic. So now we're dead, right? We can soak up 4. They do need to attack with the... Yeah. If they attack with the Questing Druid, we're dead, no matter how we block. Alright. Well, that was a massacre. Good news is, we do get more cheap removal. We don't really have sweepers, but between Fiery Impulses and Torch the Towers, we do have a lot of targeted removal. And then I guess we just trim. I guess Cryptic Coat is a little slow-ish. I don't even know if the Crowan War is worth it or not. Maybe as a one-of, it's fine. What else do we cut? Yeah, let's go down to Case. A Case is also kind of slow. Well, let's run it like that. It can't go any worse than Game 1. Game 1, we just got absolutely smacked down. We might have run into a deck that's even more aggressive than ours. Our deck's pretty aggressive, but our opponent's deck might be even more aggressive. All right, on to game number 2. We are on the play, which is pretty helpful against Gruul pump spells. And let's see how this hand looks. Pretty good. We don't have our cheap removal, but we got a bunch of cheap creatures. We do have a Shrapnel Blast, which I guess is cheap removal. Little awkward, the amount of pain lands that we have. We'll see if that ends up being a problem against this super aggressive Gruul deck. But yeah, with this hand, all of our blue and red mana is going to cost us life, and our hand's got a lot of blue and red cards. Opponent's trying to pull off the turn 0 timeout here. So wait, what other... I kind of want to look up sagas now. Oh, opponent's back. All right, land and Voldir and Epicure. Opponent. We do have to take a damage, so we're down to 19. There's the saga. Yeah, down to 18. Well, Spire of Industry, Gleaming Gear Drake. Take 2. Oh, you're killing yourselves rapidly. Drawing another Spire of Industry is kind of the worst here. Not only do we not need another land, we definitely don't need another pain land. Found it. Soul Scar Mage with the Kimana counter. And playing with fire on the Gear Drake. Well, there's Gear Drake. Take 2. Have we taken 5 from our mana base so far? Oh, you know what? We're gonna... These pain lands, my god. Let's crack a blood, discard a pain land. We just can't do another pain land. We can't do it. Trapped. Ooh. Okay, is there a world where we can get our opponent to 10 before we die in double Shrapnel Blast? Maybe. Oh. We do have a Gear Drake. We need this to live. If that dies... Oh, Audacity. Okay, that's less than ideal. And a land. Opponent goes attacking. Oh, boy. And a Witch Stalker's Frenzy. and I mean, we don't really have any blocks. We drop to 6. My God, that's another Spire. Well, I mean, we gotta do it. Shrapnel Blast is Soul Scar Mage. Take Infinite. I think, are we basically losing? This mana base is really good for a budget deck. It's a really, really, really solid budget mana base. We don't have any tap lands. There is one tiny drawback, though, as we crack our map token. That tiny drawback is it does cost a lot of life sometimes, and it finally caught up to us. In like 95% of matches, it doesn't really matter. This match, the combination of our opponent being aggro and us drawing all the Spires almost, and another Pain Land. What do we take, 6, 7 from our own mana base? Opponent, pick your poison, get rid of the flyer. I mean, we have a block here. This doesn't mean our opponent is lacking pump spells. Monstrous Rage. Crazy how good Monstrous Rage ended up being. No. We're dead. All right. Well, I mean, that saga's good. Pain Lands, good God. All right. Budget Magic time. We are ensouling our artifacts in Pioneer this week. And we will play first and, well, cannot keep the double Darksteel. Oh. All right. Cannot keep the double island hand either. Well, looks like we might be going to 5. I mean, Darksteel Citadel, there is a drawback to it being colorless. Totally worth it, though. This hand, we got like 2 islands in the deck. It's just unfortunate that we drew both of them as our only lands. Well, you know what? When in doubt, and things are looking grim, keep a hand that can put an Ensoul Artifact on something on turn 2 and hope for the best. So we're going to put Epicure to the bottom, because we're going to put this Pathway on blue, and then Inti, I think? I mean, I don't know. This is a 5-card hand that could work. It's not great. I mean, we would much rather have more than 5 cards in hand. But, I mean, turn 1, Spyglass Siren. Turn 2, Ensoul the token. Hit you for 6. And then smuggle it. I mean, it's all going to depend on our opponent having removal. As we've seen before in some matchups, turn 2 Ensoul, it is a removal check. Like, it's so big that, and it's coming down with like pseudo haste because you're putting on something that's already on the battlefield. It can just steal wins. Like, if our opponent doesn't have an answer, it is a 2-mana play that can essentially just win the game on its own. All right, opponent. What do you got? Hopefully you're not playing a Fatal Push deck. Let's vote for no Fatal Pushes. Opponent, Razor Verge Thicket. Okay. That is not a color. In a Kellen. Wow, double maps because we have an artifact. That doesn't happen much. Yeah, here we go. Ensoul our artifact. It's alive. And opponent's down to 14. I mean, do you got removal? Can you kill the map? Opponent passes. Huh. That's suspicious. What could our opponent possibly have that kills an attacking Ensoul artifact? They can't a Ganjo. Yeah. I guess we just attack. I can't think of anything that specifically cares about us attacking here. Like, if they have hard removal, they have hard removal. It doesn't matter if we're attacking or not attacking. Opponent. Did they think they could crack their maps? There's no way. Well, here we come. Opponent. Show us what you got. Well, okay. Opponent says get lost to our Ensouled artifact. Well, there goes our aggro plan. We can get down the Smuggler's Copter, and let's just pass. Leave up the torch the tower. We need at least one of these maps for torching, because if they play the Kellen, we might need to kill it. Well, we don't need to kill it yet, but Darksteel Citadel. Oh, if only we had our Ensol on that. Although I guess they could have just blown up the Ensol, right? So it wouldn't have mattered since they had Make Disappear or Get Lost. We can crack a map. We only need one for this torch. And Den of the Bugbear. Well, as far as lands go, that's not the worst. And our opponent missed their land drop last turn. Our opponent also mulligan, not as far as we did. Well, might not be time for this Spire Bluff Canal. Little bit tapping. Well, hit you down to 10. You know what we could use? You know what we haven't seen in a minute? Shrapnel Blast. We could use a blast or two. We might get a blowout here. Since our opponent missed a land drop, they're kind of incentivized to crack the map to try to hit a land. And then we can just torch the Kellen in response and fizzle it. And if our opponent's still missing land drops, they're going to be in a tough spot. All right, there's the map crackage. Well, torch the tower. Sack the map. The funny thing about this, normally the map tokens are not a huge deal from Get Lost. Cryptic Coat. Yeah, we can play it. Normally it's not a huge deal. In this case, it's actually a huge deal because it's turning on our Torch the Towers and our Shrapnel Blast. Recruitment Officer for our opponent. And passes. We could Den of the Bugbear, but then they just trade. I think it's better to just Cryptic. We can Cryptic Coat. Use it to crew the copter. Hit you for 4. And then loot. And hopefully... Ooh, Legion Extruder. Yeah, we'll discard the Citadel here. Hit you. Down to 6. About it. Need something. They need lands at a minimum. Well, looks like we might win the Battle of the Mulligans. We started off with 2 bad hands, too. We were on Multi 5. And they had the answer to the Ensol, so it wasn't just the Ensol snowball, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, we didn't get to see a ton of our opponent's deck. My guess is Amalia combo, although Amalia combo doesn't really play Recruiter that I know of. So I think we just do the, like, bring in the cheap removal thing and hope that it works out. Alright, on to game number 2. We're on the draw, and let's see if we can at least find out what our opponent's doing. We saw Kellen, Recruiter of the Guard. I mean, I guess... Amalia could play Recruiter, right? Like, the tier builds of it don't, but you could. It would, like, make some amount of sense in that deck. I think normally it's just too slow. I mean, we'll keep this. We got removal, got an Epicure, got a Shrapnel Blast, which eventually could be valuable opponent. Starts with a creature land. Huh. Maybe they're not I mean, I guess we haven't even seen black mana for Amalia. Well, we didn't see much last game, though. That's Epicure. Pang ya. Make a blood. Both players on 7 this game. That, might make it a little different than last game. Thalia. Well, I mean, we can just kill that. I guess Torch the Tower is probably the way to go. Get rid of the Thalia. Take 1. Hit you for 1. Wouldn't mind finding a threat. We've hit our removal, but we could use an actual factual, something that deals more damage than a Volnir and Epicure. Trostani? Huh? I think this is the first time I've ever seen a Trostani. Also the first time I've ever killed a Trostani. Rending Volley coming in clutch. Well, Island and Smuggler's Copter. Go. Huh. Well, I'm guessing they're not Amalia. Trostani. Opponent land. And a Recruitment Officer. I mean, Trostani does do a lot of things. It costs a lot of mana, though. Another Shrapnel Blast. Oh, boy. Oh, if we can only get our opponent... We need... Wow, not that much more. We have 10 damage of burn in hand. Opponent's at 17. No, don't kill it. Don't kill it. Don't kill it. Killing it. Are we killing it? Opponent. Leave our copter alone about it. We're just trying to do some smuggling. Opponent's really thinking about this. Really? I mean, they probably have Get Lost, I assume. Ooh. All right, that's even worse. At least with Get Lost, we would have got a couple maps out of it. And we saw in game 1, the maps are actually really helpful in this deck. Unfortunately, March of Otherworldly Light does not give us any maps. Well, let's grab Big J, pass the turn. We can't play it next turn. It is a 5/5. Opponent tap land. I mean, if our opponent's just Voice of Resurgence, okay. I mean, I guess that's annoying in a Luminarch Aspirant. All right. We need a flyer would be good. The Jingatha can shut down the attacks for a minute. More lands. I mean, we can't always Shrapnel Blast creatures, but we'd really love these Shrapnel Blasts to end up winning us the game. Let's play Jingatha. Pass the turn. Opponent really shouldn't be able to attack very well here. Opponent Luminarch Aspirant. So maybe this is just like green-white aggro? Oh, it's probably, I guess Company would make sense. Green-white Company, maybe? It's just like good green-white aggro creatures, basically. I think we attack here, right? We get in with Jingatha. If our opponent aggressively double blocks to kill Jingatha, then we can Shrapnel Blast and kind of get the blowout. Alright, they're just going to block with the Voice. I mean, that's fine. Although, how do we win this game? So we need our opponent to swing out so we can get in for 5 with Jingatha. That'd put our opponent to 12. 11 from the Epicure. Let's sack the Blood, get rid of this land. And then we need one more point of damage, like another Epicure, Legion Extruder, another Shrapnel Blast, Smuggler's Copter. Okay. I mean, that's not bad. Smuggler's Copter can potentially chip in the air. Ooh. All right. Our plans have been interrupted, Avon style. So are we dead now? Well, I mean, we're not dead. We have artifact lands, so we can Shrapnel Blast off the lands. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if they swing out, if they activate the creature land, we got to chump. If they just swing out, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The problem is then, we can't make red mana, right? Because all of our red mana is pain lands. Yeah, so we actually have to chump here. Plus, I guess, they could fire up the creature land to grow the Voice token, but then we could Shrapnel Blast. Well, down to 5. We're all in on trying to win with a Shrapnel Blast. I think that's the only realistic plan here. Opponent is tapped down, mostly. But Spyglass Siren doesn't get any extra damage. Well, let's Smuggler's Copter. I think we're kind of dead, though. Oh, Coco. Okay, that increases our death level. I mean, we're really dead either way. All right. Well, on to game number 3. At least now we know what our opponent's up to. I don't know if it really changes anything. We'll bring in the last Rending Volley, I guess. I wonder how good Cryptic Code is. Do you think Cryptic Code's worth it? I guess it's kind of matchup dependent. It's always fine, but feels slow against aggro. Very good against control and mid-range, where we can get the repeatable value. So it's probably worth it just for those matchups. But against aggro, I do sideboard it out a lot. All right, on to game number 3. We are going to be on the play. Can we take down? Well, that's actually a very good hand. So this is the best hand we've had in a minute. We don't have an Ensoul Artifact, but double 1-drop, double removal spell, Smuggler's Copter. That's what we like to see. All right, land and Spyglass Siren. Go. Opponent. Plains. And Giant Killer. Can we play the Copter? Do we need a Legion Extruder? What is the worst case? Luminarch Aspirant? They Luminarch Aspirant, they grow the Giant Killer to 3 power, but then we can still kill it. Yeah, let's just play the Copter. Get in, hit ya. So if they play Luminarch Aspirant, they grow the Giant Killer, but we can still torch the tower, sack the map if we really got to get rid of it. Opponent. Well, there's Luminarch Aspirant. That is, I think, our opponent's best card here. Grows the Giant Killer. Hits us down to 18. Mountain and Legion Extruder. Snipe the Luminarch Aspirant. We don't even really have to kill the Giant Killer here. Also nice that for once we're not all pain lands. We're not dying to our own mana base. Get in with the Copter and the Siren. Do a little looting. Discard. Yeah, I guess Aspire is technically worse than Shivan Reef. Opponent. So now the question is, can we kill our opponent before they get to Collected Company? Collected Company, you just never know. Like, it is a very powerful card. It's a card that can just put someone back in the game. Opponent land. We're off to a nice start, but opponent has 5 cards. We have 2, and one's a land. Opponent passes. Dark Steel Citadel. So we saw a bunch of those Interrupters. So our opponent could be sitting on Interrupter. We could torch the tower. Yeah, let's torch. Sack the blood. If our opponent interrupts, at least we know. Ooh, that's a Shrapnel Blast. Opponent does not activate the Giant Killer. Well, now we can crew the Copter. If our opponent's plan was just activate Giant Killer on Copter, that worked out really well for us. So we know Shrapnel Blast is coming. I think we actually just activate the Extruder. Let's extrude, sack the map, and then we can use the Golem to drive the Copter. And I think we're in a good spot. This deck can really deal some damage. When the deck has a good draw, it's like fast, it's pretty disruptive, it's got reach with the Shrapnel Blast. It actually feels pretty good. Well, get in and hit you for 5, down to 9. I assume, wow, an opponent. I was going to say I assume they don't have removal because they would have killed the Copter before attacks. Turns out our opponent doesn't have anything, and they're dead. Well, this deck's actually pretty sweet. In Soul Artifact, it is back along with Shrapnel Blast. Sweet. So what did we learn this week about Ensoul Artifact in Pioneer? And the deck kind of crushed it. So we went 5-1 with the deck. Our one loss came to like the Gruul Prowess aggro deck, which was just faster than we were. But we managed to take down Waste Not. We took down Rakdos Vampires. The Rakdos Vampire game in specific, we beat like Kalitas into Double Vein Ripper. The deck is actually oddly powerful. And I gotta say, I think this deck is actually like really, really good. If you're looking for a budget deck for Pioneer that's pretty competitive, like you could take this to your LGS and win an F&M. I think you could even take it to a tournament and potentially do well in a tournament. I think this is one of the best options. If you're just looking for a really, really strong budget deck for Pioneer, the deck can be really fast, but it's also like oddly resilient. You get the free wins with Ensoul Artifact, but you can also kind of play a long game with Inti and Smuggler's Copter. It's got good removal. It's got Shrapnel Blast, which we saw some really sweet Shrapnel Blast kills. No one expects the Shrapnel Blast. It's so funny to see opponents get down to like 5 life, and no one's thinking in Pioneer, oh, if I get to 5, I might just die to a Shrapnel Blast. So it's really easy to get people with the card. And all the new support cards like Spyglass Siren, Voldaren Epicure are just so incredibly good in the deck. So the old version from 2020, it actually looks pretty quaint compared to this. Like the power level is just so much higher. We got so much good support. So anyway, that's Ensoul Artifact for Pioneer. That's been our budget magic for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.